to Tales from the Tap. My name is Frankie, and this is my co-host,
Stan the Man.
and we're excited to talk to you about Magic post SCG Atlanta and some drama that's happening in the community. But before we do, Stan, one of the things I wanted to mention to you, like just offhanded, a little bit about vendors from SCG, was Heavy Play was there, and every time they're there, I'm like,
Yeah, you did tell me how you had a great experience with them.
Yeah, you guys are the best, blah, blah, blah. But like what I found so interesting is when I walked in the room, directly next to the booth of Heavy Play was a much, much bigger booth from Dragon Shield. And I went up to the Heavy Play guy and I was like, man, they don't know like the real sleep companies right here. And
so you were doing a little tricks on it. You were glazing them up.
Yes, absolutely. And I asked him, I was like, so have they done like one of these before? Because like didn't see him at MagicCon when we went.
Right.
Didn't see him at the RC.
Which could have been a space issue.
Yeah. Well, I guess.
The last MagicCon was tiny if you think about it.
Yeah.
I felt like I could walk that room in like 6 seconds, and I was like, well, I'm bored.
Well, and there were some big booths though for like the big card sellers.
But so maybe it was like competitive, but yeah.
The same was true for DC. They were not in DC either.
And they were at the GP, you're saying?
Yes.
Nice. But the GP had a really big room. I was super hyped when I saw that photo of the room. I was like, dude, this is what MagicCon should have been like. What's going on?
It was big, but I was like, what's the deal? I haven't seen them before. And he's like, they never had a booth. They've never had one. And I was like, so they're scared.
Yeah.
They hear the footsteps.
Sure. Well, they finally realized that there's competition in the space, maybe. It's possible that's the case. Or maybe they finally have, like, we talk a lot about how, like, some of these companies have, like, how, like, you kind of, like, rise to your failures in some of these companies where they'll, like, promote some guy that happens to be good at one position, but he might suck at the position above it. And now that he's there, he's never getting promoted out of it because he sucks, right? So you kind of, like, some of these companies, they're run so inept that you kind of like forget that you can make good plays still, and you're just like, oh well, it's still going, the machine's still churning, and then all of a sudden, oh, your company's dying, right? And we've seen it time and time again. Like Sears used to own the Willis Tower, right, in Chicago, and now they're like not even a company. So Dragon Shield might not have had like a creative director or some person that's like in charge of outreach that was willing to like actually do stuff, and maybe they put the right person in the position, and they're like, hey, why aren't we doing any of this? It's kind of like how we used to talk about how like Magic would never support professional play, competitive tournaments, Grand Prix were gone for so long, and maybe you just put the right person in the position to be like, hey, this, even though we're spending some money on it, is going to be worth it in the long run. So there could be some of that going on as well. I still think Dragon Shield is like far and away like probably like top dog, like it's going to be a while before that ever gets taken down.
Oh, for sure.
I've seen so many sleeve companies in 15 years that are like, we're going to be whatever, and then all of a sudden it's like, who are you?
Yeah, well, I think that,
but I do like seeing competition. I agree.
Yeah, and I think that they're doing things right. Like I love that they're like, right, they made playmats and now they're doing deck boxes, and I love some of the features of that, and the way that they were pairing with local artists for like this first round of their limited playmats. I think
those playmats looked really good too.
So cool.
I like their foldable, like the hard playmats that they do too. I think that's like a really cool SKU. One of the things I really like, to your point as well, is that I want to see differences in the product. I hate the Katana versus Dragon Shield split, because some people will die on the hill that they're different, and they're just not. Like, they're basically the same thing, effectively, at least for my purposes, where Heavy Play actually has a uniqueness to them with the curved bottoms, and that feels different when I'm playing with the deck. Not that I don't like Dragon Shields anymore, but I really like Heavy Play and how they feel, especially at competitive tournaments where I want to always know which way my deck is facing. Knowing which side is the bottom really makes a difference for me. It's just true. Like when you pass your deck to cut and your opponent hands it back to you backwards, you draw your first card, you're like, why is my deck upside down? That kind of stuff is so triggering.
So I had that out on RCQ this weekend. I faced this guy, and he's like brand new to Magic. And what's funny to me is that despite being brand new to Magic, he was like, this is like my only shot, man. I'm having my second kid, so like I'm doing it now. And I'm like, but an RCQ is like, what, you want to start as your first, like not like a local Monday or whatever. And so he's playing super slow.
Sure.
And I'm like helping him with all of his triggers, but he was like, man, I wish they had like this thing to like help me know which was the front. And I was like, that's why I play with these curved bottom sleeves, because that never happens. And he's like, oh yeah, that is different. And then as we're playing, like, I don't know, next game or something, he goes, oh, I did it. Half of it's in backwards.
Yep,
and
yep,
I was
yep.
like, that's why.
Yeah,
Yep.
that never happens to me because I'm so like OCD about it.
Yeah.
But I've seen it happen to enough players where I'm like, dude, your deck's upside down, man. Like, what are you doing? And then like I'm like, you're gonna split your sleeves. It's the easiest way to split your sleeves, right? When you like slide them in the wrong way. But another company that I've been using in the shop lately is Dual Spec. So you guys might not have heard of that, but the Pokemon players were like freaking out over this company. Like, you have to get these. Please get these for us. Their shtick is that they're skinnier. So you know how like the sleeves are like a certain width.
Yeah.
The dual specs are slightly skinnier. You can still technically fit a perfect fit in, but they kind of shape more to the card. So they're saying like those shuffles feel better for the Pokemon players, and they don't ever sideboard in Pokemon, so like that kind of like affects it as well. But I tried the product out as well. They do really well for me in the store, so like kind of biased, right? But as a product, they also shuffle differently. They feel different, and they feel good. So I'm like, wow, that's kind of interesting that there's still like uniqueness to be found in these products. So with competition in the space, whether or not it's heavy play or katana or dual spec now, if these companies actually have to be innovative, that's just going to be better for the players overall, especially when it comes to keeping the quality up. Like, even Magic, I think, has finally started figuring it out. Like, hey, we can't just print crap cards. People are making fun of us. Like, the amount of memes with, like, the Tostitos memes, like, look at how crap this card is. I feel like a little bit of quality is starting to come back to the cards, especially when you look at the fancy foils. What's it called? There was something else I wanted to touch on, but I totally forgot. Also, my voice is a little still. I know I was really sick last month. I'm so congested, and it will not come out. Oh, kind of a gross story, actually.
Oh,
so you know
no.
those, have you ever used the machine that like circulates like water in your sinus?
Yes, like the neti teapots or whatever.
Is that what it's called? It's like literally like a robot. It blows one in and sucks out the other.
Yeah. I know what you're
And
talking about.
Winter got one for her dad before he passed away. He didn't really use it, and so she took it from her mom's house last 2 weeks ago when we were both really sick. She's actually really sick right now.
Please tell me she cleaned it.
Well, yeah, obviously. We cleaned
Okay,
it.
I was like,
it's like actually sitting on my sink right now in pieces because I had to just wash it.
Okay.
But life-changing experience. Like, I went from like I can't breathe, I can't see, I can't hear, to like, oh, whoa, huh. Like, it just like rotates it, just gets all those boogers out. It's crazy.
That makes me feel like the meme from Fairly Odd Parents where he like puts on the glasses. And
Yeah, I can see.
I can see.
I can fight.
Can fight.
That was such a good meme. Yeah, no, literally, it felt like that in some ways. I should have used it today, honestly, but I didn't get a chance to because I was running late. But
Because he hates the podcast.
yeah, sorry,
He hates
guys.
you.
I just want you guys to hear my nasally voice. Yeah, so I'll try to quell that as much as possible during the episode. But if I start sounding a little weird, you know why. Not that I ever don't sound weird. Another thing is we have Sal with us a little bit. He's hanging out behind the camera. You might notice the angle is slightly different, and also that we have these like little cool cushions that Sal got us because he loves us. And now you won't hear my spit on the camera. I don't know if you could hear that before. Also, theoretically, our Focusrite should actually be working. So hopefully there's no audio gaps this time, which is awesome. Thank you, Sal. Shout outs to Sal, and shout outs to his channel, MTG Chicago, 4,000 plus subscribers. And also Goblin Ringleader, our boy Jack, he's at 300 now.
He just hit 300.
He hit 300 subscribers on YouTube. That's awesome, man. Super happy for you. Proud of you. With that being said, let's get into some of our own housekeeping. If you guys want to support the show, the easiest way, as always, is through Patreon. Helps us keep the lights on, helps us pay the bills, helps us upgrade, and do the stuff that we got to do to reinvest into the show for you guys. With that being said, we do have a new member this time, which is Jose. So thank you very much for joining us. And I heard that actually Frank already helped you out with your cyber guide for the GP. So hope it worked out. If it didn't, next time you'll always get them next time. But those kind of events honestly really prep you for getting your ass blasted, but not just that, like being able to return the favor when you get to the next event. Back in the day when we'd grind SCGs like once a month or whatever was going on, you'd have one tournament where you're like 0-6, and then like the next time you like all of a sudden you start off 4-0 and you're like you feel terrific, And sometimes it just has to do with that medical.
Yeah, well, and that's what was so heartbreaking about SCG for me was that I started at 3-0, and the energy crew, because Joe Bernal was there, but he was like working like the energy booth.
Oh, nice.
Instead of playing, and he's like, yeah, I just gotta work now, and I was like, yeah, I went 3-0 and then to 3-2, and he's like, you're like the third person that's come up to be like, I started the day on 3-0, and I was like, I don't know, man.
Yeah, a lot of our energy guys, a lot of our really good, powerful locals, our strongest soldiers started off undefeated, and just to get like fifth round, sixth round knocked out effectively, which is rough. We did have some people into day 2, which is cool, but yeah, kind of a rough event for a lot of our people in Chicago. Which
I think 2 that I know of went over to day 2. I know that there was more of the Flexlock clue because Jabor posted that 50% of them made it.
Yeah.
But I know that Reed did not make it, and Will did. Will Kruger made it.
Oh, Will did make it. Nice.
He had one buddy though that was like 8-1. Like
nice.
Just like really crushed it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love to hear about our friends and their friends doing well, especially when they're local to Chicago. I'm always preaching about the Midwest. You guys know the Midwest supremacy, but
Ooh, do you think we could partner with MTG Chicago to make like MTG Chicago shirts that are like Midwest supremacy,
that'd be
like
badass.
The big supremacy?
Get on it, Sal. You heard it here first.
Send me the picture.
What's it called? Besides that, our show will always be free on YouTube. So if you can't support us on Patreon, you want to support us for free, subscribe, like, comment. All of it goes a long way for us. If you want to just like spam like on our videos, literally would go a long way. But if you can just hit the subscribe button, apparently like 80% of our viewers aren't subscribed. So I really would appreciate it if you guys could do that. And then join our Discord. It's open access. Our Discord is free for everybody to join. We do have certain channels that are locked for like Patreon perks, and those will always be like exclusive to them. But the totality of the Discord is pretty much open. There are a ton of people always in there brewing. Actually, this past weekend we had a lot of people going to RCQ, so people sharing cards with each other and getting ready for the tournaments, figuring out who's going to ride with whom if you're local. And then the other way you can support us is we are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc., every other streaming platform for podcasts that I can think of. That I don't know very many because I'm a YouTube person.
Yeah, and sorry for those of you that do listen on Spotify and Apple, like, because I know Jose is like up until the Patreon, he's been exclusive to just Spotify, and I don't know what the deal is, but Spotify for podcasters has been like their website's crashing, and they like don't really care about podcasts because they don't make them that much money,
right?
And so it took me 4 attempts at trying to put the episode in to even get it. So it came out later than the YouTube did by days, and that's not typically normal for us. But, what are you going to do? Spotify.
Yeah, I mean, the upload process takes so long that at any point if the website's bugging, it's like, please don't bug for 4 hours.
Well, and it's not even that like I'm uploading it on Spotify. It's literally like you type in Spotify for podcasters and like you hit login and it just like sits.
Oh.
You just see the logo in the top corner and it's like the website.
Yeah, blank screen.
The website is buffering and you're like,
sweet. Yeah, I love finding those kind of errors now after like having gone to like, before I opened the store, I was actually in college for programming for like a year. And then my business partner, Todd, you guys know Todd, he's also a programmer. Like he's working for PayPal right now. So like looking for those bugs as somebody who's like kind of like knows a little bit about it is always fun, where I'm like, hey Todd, look, I found this issue. What do you think it is? And he's like, oh yeah, for sure it's blah, 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 blah. Some kind of like crazy, high level explanation that I'm like, yep, you got it, bro. I appreciate that. With that being said, though, let's jump into some drama. If you guys want to hear about it, while my voice is still working.
Piping tea.
I have kind of strong opinions about this, and I was actually talking about it with Jared last night in Discord. Shout out to our boy. Come back home, please. We miss you.
Please.
But
baby, come home.
We do miss you though, for real. But yeah, we were having a good talk, and between Jared and Josh being in Japan, whenever I'm up late on Discord, like on Saturday nights, I'll try to hang out with them in voice call so we can actually hang out.
Yeah.
So we're talking. He tells me about the drama. I'm reading the write up that the guy did, and looking at all the tweets. And it's actually funny because I said X for the first time unironically. I was like, I don't see anything on X. And then Jared's like, who says X? I was like, I guess me now. Like, damn. Like,
Zoomer.
it's just so much easier to, it's like one syllable, I guess.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
that's
yeah.
why my brain likes it. But I just thought it was funny. And I still call them tweets because, like, what do you call an X, you know?
Oh,
like,
true.
So, like, I don't know. It's just easier for me.
True.
But if it's one syllable, I'm probably going to default. But anyways, talking with Jared, we had really strong opinions on the topic, and it kind of actually got us talking to like the modern metagame and a lot of stuff. So it was kind of like a fruitful conversation for the podcast because it gave me a lot to think about. But and then Josh was there, so he's always asking like 50 questions, like, "What do you think was the worst cheating allegation? What was the worst scandal?" And I didn't answer your question, Josh.
That's so Josh.
Yeah, I love Josh. He's my boy.
Well,
it's my best friend right there. But go ahead.
Oh, that was it. He's very Josh.
I didn't answer his question because I was like, I had my headset on, but I went to go like wash my hands or something, so I could hear them chatting. And my computer's right there for those that don't know. So like, I literally walked around to go to the restroom to wash my hands. Or I think I was like throwing something out and then washed my hands. I think I had like just eaten, not important. But I could hear them talking, and I wasn't answering the question, and you could tell Josh is like waiting. We'll stand. You got something to say here? So I'll answer your question. But there's been a lot of kind of cheating allegations in Magic, and I honestly, if I had them all in front of me, I could probably pick the right one. But one that for me is pretty notable because it happened right around when I was like really loving competitive Magic, and I was also like free enough to be able to play, was the Amulet Titan player. I don't even remember his name, but back in like 2018, I want to say 2017, maybe it was 2017. Oh man, it was so long ago. It was like Eldritch Moon would have been legal in Standard, if that makes sense. This player was stacking his hands, like palming them on his slab.
Steven Speck.
Steven Speck, is that the player?
Yeah, and the reason I know that guy is because when I first started playing Magic, he would come to Grogs and he would play in like Limited.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like this is obviously post, and like I would hear Leif like sometimes like make jokes about like whatever his scene in Magic, and he's like, no, like I'm just playing chill now and whatever. But then like looked him up later and was like, oh, he's this guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Maybe
So
maybe
he's
it is the
local.
same guy.
Yeah, because I've watched the video, the top 10 great
Oh.
cheaters, and he was the Amulet
Gotcha.
palming the 7.
Gotcha,
Very
okay.
specifically.
I didn't remember his name, so that sounds right. I just like, I'm like, Steven Specs doesn't sound like the right name, but I guess I'm just not remembering the story enough. But when it happened, it was such a big deal, and it was so interesting that like it was just so funny because the guy was like palming 7s of Amulet when Amulet still had Summer Bloom, so you could basically turn 1 kill people with Hive Mind and Summoner's Pact. So this guy was palming 7s that were perfect keeps and just snowballing through this tournament. And I think it was like a Star City Games Open where he was just like turn 1, turn 2 killing people consistently and just cruise control the top 8. Finally gets on camera. They obviously catch him cheating because it's a camera match, and I don't know why people ever cheat on camera. It's so dumb, but the cheaters always cheat on camera. Shout out to my boy Bertoncini because we're friends on Facebook, but he has so many of those cheating moments. But the gall to cheat, and then like they always have a dumb excuse where like this guy was like, oh, I wanted to get the deck banned. So that's why he was cheating with Amulet. It's like, come on, man. Like, just what is that? So that's to me like a pretty bad one, especially because of the nature of the cheating. It was like, I mean, like he probably sent so many people home early that shouldn't have been sent home early, right? And on top of that, like it was the whole tournament. Didn't really apologize for it. So like pretty bad. I'm sure there are worse cheating moments, but like that one was pretty bad from my recollection.
The one that was like at the end of the video that I thought was most crazy was, I don't remember the guy's specific name, but what he did was not specifically cheating on a deck, but he would just take small edges over multiple tournaments, and there were things that were like hard to prove.
Sure.
Like he would extra tap mana, or
Yeah.
he would like draw an extra card and just be like, "Oh, sorry, man, I was going too fast." And
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
But that kept happening for so many events that like they finally like permabanned him.
Sure. That actually might have been Bernsini because he got cheated, got caught cheating multiple times, and now he plays poker. You can't really cheat in poker. I mean, you can, obviously. There's allegations all the time, but like it's much harder and much more money is on the line, so they are way stricter on it. But no, Bertensini, he did multiple things. Like one of the big memes is the 2 explorers. That's why when we were handing out explorers during like that RCQ season,
Yeah.
we all kept saying 2 explore, and that might have just went over your head. But the reason why was because he was playing a game once on camera, kind of like people were recording from the side, and they were like, "You have too many lands in play." He's like, 2 explorers, and then just like shuts them up. It's like his opponent won't ask any questions.
Yes.
It just keeps playing.
I watched that, and it's because he picked it up from his graveyard, didn't he?
No, that's a different one. That one actually I was going to bring up next. You guys have to watch out for people cheating, and honestly, no, coming up with this drama next, I might even have to be one of those players that needs to be more careful. But the way he was cheating with that was it's honestly a pretty cool cheat if you're trying to like be like one of those like sleight of hand people. But instead of like going counter your spell, put it in the graveyard, he would always leave his spell on the stack, like in the middle of the board state. So it was like, I have a counter spell in my graveyard. I'm casting another counter spell. I'm leaving it here, waiting for your spell to resolve. Cool, you pick it up. As soon as you look away, this is going in my hand. Instead of the graveyard. But you see a counter spell on top of the graveyard, so you're like, oh yeah, he put it there. And one of the times he did it was on camera. So the commentators were like, wait, that counter spell should be in the graveyard. And then the next turn, counter spell again. I don't think he was actually counter spell, but he cast 3 spells in a row with 2 cards, and it was the same spell. So you got to watch out for that kind of stuff, obviously. But those are like I feel like easy ones to watch out for. The one that's coming up is like a lot more like what you're saying, like, oh, I'm playing fast and loose, and all of a sudden you don't know, and you really have to be willing to like fight for yourself and be assertive and like slow your opponent down.
So set the stage. What happened?
Yeah, so I forgot the player's name. I think you pulled it up, but this guy is a SCG winner and like pretty much like a pro player, and he's friends with a lot of other pro players. So sorry for people that are watching on their second monitor and checking their Discord notification.
I was looking for your thing.
It's all good. He's like a known player, so like to have done it to somebody like this is one of the reasons why I'm a little bit annoyed. Not that it happened to him, but because like I feel like the main reason why this is actually becoming an issue and actually blowing up is because
Julian Corfine,
yeah. Great player, friends with a lot of people. Got a lot of support from Nicole Tipple, for those who know who that is, if you're like in the Magic scene. And if you know about these people, they're all like known players, really nice people. They will grind tournaments, so obviously they're going to be willing to like defend themselves if they see something shady going on. So what ended up happening was Nicole Dubin is playing against Julian Corfine.
Yep.
And he basically did a write-up of what happened on like on Word Talk and posted it on Twitter. He's playing Gruul aggro versus like the Questing Druid deck versus Nicole Dubin on Esper Pixie. And game 1, he said was a little sus, but not really that big a deal. Their judge calls were fine. Everything went cool. Game 2 blew her out because he had a good aggro hand and they missed a land drop. Game 3 is where the issue arose where, before I go on,
sponsored
not
by
sponsored.
Monster.
Maybe one day.
Like that we said it at the same, not sponsored, sponsored, same
I love
time.
Monster. Please, sponsor, please. I know like Grandpa Bear has like the Red Bull thing. I love Monsters.
Oh my god. And Liquid Death will sponsor me.
Yeah, I know, right? Speaking
Hydrate, hydrate.
hydrate. That's a good one. Okay, so game 3. They're both at low life totals, and Nicole has 6 lines in play. I think he said he was like at 8, and she was like at 3 or 4. In the moment, the only line that Nicole had was effectively to like the only way she could survive was to basically cheat, which they kind of like proved through the math. But he has just a singular Ember Heart in play. She's at low life. He's helping. Passes the turn. She has a Pixie in play that's a 2/2. Attacks for 2. Drops into 6. And then all of a sudden starts tanking. And then he said during the match they were playing very cordial the whole time, announcing all the triggers, being really, clear, concise. All of a sudden, Nicole turns the turbos on and is like playing super fast and loose, and then casts a
Hopeless Nightmare.
Hopeless Nightmare. Cast a Hopeless Nightmare, which is like they have to lose life and discard a card.
Yes, lose 2 life and they discard a card.
Excuse me. So yeah, lose the life, discard a card, resolves it, and then goes, okay, on your upkeep, I'm going to scroll shift it, I believe. Scroll shift, is that the card?
Yes.
To like blink it.
Yes.
And then make you do it again to like lose life. But in response to their draw, so that they would effectively have to discard the card they drew. So then he goes, well, okay, they're playing super fast now. In response to this, Questing Druid Seek the Beast, so I can not discard my card and draw. After that, he was saying they were playing so fast and loose that I didn't get a chance to really like actually access the board state. They never paid for the Hopeless Nightmare. So they had 6 lands, untapped, 3 tapped now for the scroll shift. Hopeless Nightmare had already resolved from the turn prior, was never paid for, which left them with 3 mana open to cast a second scroll shift, which effectively cost them the match because not only was it an extra card to discard and the damage to make the crackback lethal, because he went from like 8 to 6 to 4 to 2, and there's a 2/2 Pixie in play, but he would have had a chance to lethal.
Yep.
But he was forced to pop a temporary lockdown with a ball patch formation that presented her with a blocker because she had the extra card. And so he was like really upset because they called the judge ruled in her favor, said no, she doesn't have to tap the mana because too much stuff happened, even though I think it's a really terrible judge call. Not too much had happened in that situation, at least in my opinion. Like, there are 2 spells into an upkeep where a card was cast in the main phase before that was clearly should have been paid for. It's determining the result of the match in the moment. It's like if you're like an NFL referee and like you just like watch a guy get like blown out, like cheating, like a pass interference, and you're like, well, it's good, like that literally happened. And that literally happened to the Saints or whatever back in the day to cost them a chance at the Super Bowl.
I remember that.
And so it's like blatant pass interference, no call, you're not going to the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? Like, that's basically what happened to the guy right here. Because, like, they're X and 1. He wins this match. He's maybe cruise control to at least doing well into day 2. So the judge call, I think, was horrific. The appeal was also upheld. Also a horrific judge call. They really should rethink how they're handling judge calls if that's how they ruled it. After that happened, he goes, well, it's not too late. You realize you didn't pay for it. You could still concede to me because, like, I would have won here. Like, we both agree I would have won. So, like, you could scoop. And Nicole basically just went like, yeah, no, you're right. Sorry. I'm just going to take the win. And so that's, like, honestly really shitty to do. But and beyond it being scummy, it's almost like, how is that not an edge shoot? Like when you read the way the story was presented.
Well, and, like, I don't know. I'm just like, right, I pulled this up to like have some of it here while you're talking about it, and like the final thing says like special thank you to like Nathan Stoyer and Nicole Tipple, and like I'm like, these are big names.
Yeah. All the people that
that know this guy.
Yeah, because they all had to talk him off the ledge. He was about to stop playing the whole weekend. He's like, dude, that ruined the next round. He was so tilted. He said he had lost because he just wasn't paying attention. Just like, because this judge call was 20 minutes long. He had to go straight to his next round. No chance to unwind, take a breath, keeps an unplayable hand,
Loses.
And then just goes, you know what, you got it. He like scoops his opponent.
Scoops, yeah.
And then just drops. And it's like, dude, you were in day 2 to drop from like somebody being basically a scumbag. Like, that's crazy to me.
Yeah.
And luckily enough, like his friends, he said support from his homies, which, always support your homies. Look out for them. You never know what kind of demons they're battling, but he was able to I think there was an event in the day 2 that he jumped into, and he managed to top 8 that one.
Yeah, he was 7-1-1.
Yeah, so like great player, very. He probably could have done really well considering he was able to top 8 the next event, like the next day. He probably could have top 8'd the GP. It's just really unfortunate. Oh, excuse me, man. I am getting itchy. But
oh no.
Anyways, the whole situation to me is like so just really cringe. But I feel like it speaks volumes to like how we handle judge calls that this kind of stuff still happens, where we have like just terrible rulings and like there has to be some kind of nuance. I know that they want to have like black and white lines, like, oh, this is how we handle this is how we handle this, but it's like I feel like the judge, especially the head judge, should be able to look at a board state with some kind of nuance and be like, yeah, we can very clearly recreate this. You're wrong. And the only way that works is if Nicole basically lies and goes, no, I had already had this in play, and lies about it, right?
Well, and beyond that, like, okay.
Because then the judge has to go, well, it's he said, she said.
Yes, and this is like a little bit of a side tangent from my RECQ that I did. So I had a judge, there was like an what happened? Rule opponent has a rock face village that was supposed to be in their main board, fell on the floor. And so we presented and went into a game. And so this judge like went into this really big, like, your deck, my deck, was there scrying, was there mulliganing, and started to like write out how many cards each person had and like ended up solving it in like a way that made sense, put the card back in the deck, all that. And this is for like the win of the RECQ. And afterwards, someone else mentioned something along the lines of like game losses, match losses, whatever. And he was like, you have to try really hard to get like a game loss. Like, you have to do some really egregious stuff.
Yeah.
Because we're trying to make Magic not be feels bad anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
And
8 years ago, it was, all right, you lost instantly.
Yeah.
And now it's a lot more, which I think is good.
Yeah, because
they want to try to make it, like they said, less feels bad. But that means you have to really apply some logic, you know?
Right, because to me, if you're, right, Nicole Dubin, and you have the ability to cast extra spells because of this untapped mana, like, that's game changing. So game changing. So I just don't understand how the judge could be like, that spell was free then. Like, why? How? What?
Yeah, you missed it, so it was free.
So it's free.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess I'm just gonna not pay for any of my shit. So like, this go.
Like, yeah, that.
No, I definitely agree. It is definitely well, that's where my issue comes from. It's like, for better or for worse, Magic is very, in general, very left leaning, like very progressive, and so if you are somebody who's like very like anti, because Nicole Duman's transgender, for those that don't know. If you're somebody who's like against that kind of like person, it just gives you more fuel where they're like, oh wow, of course they got the call. It's like, well, come on, that's not necessarily true, but we might not know that because we've seen situations already where I think a judge recently got in trouble because they were anti-transgender and they were outed for it. They were like ruling against transgender people on purpose because they didn't like them for whatever reason. And we've seen it the other way, you know, where they're like overly favored towards them. And so obviously we could pull up examples of he said, she said, this person did this person did that. But if you allow that to be part of the narrative at all, it just causes more issues, you know? And now we're in a situation where it's like, well, who knows? Maybe the judge did because of that. And that's why they were allowed to cheat. And if that's the case, then like, what are we doing here? You know, are we playing a game or are we just like?
Yeah, and that's what's so tough is that I feel like in general for Magic and like what we want, and I think like probably the majority of the community would want is that the judge calls and how we are conducting ourselves is fair to how the game should be played.
100%.
Just
yeah,
like
it has
make
to
it
be
fair to how the game should be played.
Yeah, fair to the individual, everybody on an equal playing field, no purely based on nuance of the board state. And I feel like if you look at the board state, from an outsider's perspective, you have to feel like something shady went on, you know? And I think at minimum, it's like very clear that Nicole was cheating here, or like a really, really
Or
harsh edge shoot, you know?
harsh edging.
Yeah, and it's like that to me is basically cheating. Like we talked about it before. Like if you're edge shooting, you're basically just cheating. You're just trying to cheat within the confines of getting away with it, blatantly, you know? Because like there's cheating where you're like trying not to get caught, and then there's cheating where you're like, well, yeah, I cheated you, but now it's almost like double jeopardy. They already ruled it in my favor. You know what I mean? Which I think is just so cringe. And
so cringe.
I really dislike the way the situation was handled, and like everybody on Twitter, like if you want to talk about unanimous, everybody on Twitter was like, this is a horrible call. The way that this person acted was very sus. Obviously, it's not the judge's fault, because I have to imagine the judges aren't dumb, and nobody was complaining about the judges in the moment except for maybe the which made me really annoyed with Nicole Dubin's response to it, because in their response they're like, his friends were shouting at the judges and berating them and calling them names. It's like, no, they weren't, or else they would have been disqualified. You can't say anything to a judge without getting disqualified. Absolutely not. They were not doing that. Not to mention the people he listed as his friends were all respectable Magic players. For you to cheat and then fling these accusations at them, to me, is like just a shitty response. And of course, it was on Blue Sky, because you can't post a normal response on any platform that is real. But
well, and I don't know. I think that there isn't enough of people that will just make a mistake. Like right, even if Nicole wasn't intentionally cheating, just be like, this was wrong and I'm sorry.
Yeah, 100%.
And like, and we don't even need to go further than that.
Yeah.
Just that.
Yeah.
Is like,
that's why
fine.
it was so unanimous. Like Theo Chung, who just from the energy, was like, how do you not scoop here? Connor Mullally, we talked about before, Jonathan Hobbs, all these really, really great players, all local players, because Nicole Dubin is local for us, right? Mm-hmm. See her at all the Nerd Rage events locally, all the team events. I've played against them recently. And everybody was like, yeah, here's my bad experience with this person. They're usually doing this. And I mean, I hate to say it, but it's the same for me. At the team event that I went to with Jared and Baczynski, I played against Nicole, and they were playing the Rona combo deck. And the whole time they were playing like on turbo lightning speed, where I had multiple times in the game I had to be like, well, hold on. How did you do this and this? And every time it felt like they were trying to cheat, where I'm like asking them to slow down, right? And, there's difference between playing fast and playing like whatever that was.
Well, and to that point, you can take a lot faster play than I can. Like, I can't even operate.
I agree with you. I already, to myself, play really fast.
Yeah.
And so, it's detrimental sometimes, where I'll lose games because I'm playing too fast, and I should have tanked a little bit. I play really fast, and even I was like, dude, slow down. How did you do this? Okay, Rutstein reduces the cost here. How do you do that? Cool. Like Relic of Legends, blah, blah, blah. You can't like play super fast and shortcut everything and then not announce everything. That was my issue with Nicole when we played. And I got to the point where game 3, I was just like, I don't even want to play this game anymore. So I feel like that honestly put me on tilt, but I wasn't going to make an excuse about losing that I was tilted, right? But looking back on it, I'm like, man, maybe they were trying to scum me, you know? And that kind of feels shitty looking back on it. And although a lot of other people were posting their same stories, like even I find it funny, but a couple people that Jared was like, man, that guy has scummed me before. And even that guy's saying that Nicole sucks. So it's like something to be said when even the players that people in the community would consider not that nice, you know, are also kind of doing their thing.
Sorry, I was just like, I've been like seeing who's commented on this, and Nicole Temple, who's friends with this guy, put, there's more than one Nicole that plays Magic. I've been getting some not so nice messages.
Yeah. Well, because he put Nicole the message, and it took me 5 minutes to read his synopsis. You know that average people on Twitter are not reading.
No.
So dumb. So he actually had to respond to his own tweet and be like, Nicole Dubin cheated against me. Nicole Tipple is my friend.
friend.
And I was like, of course, average Magic, well, not even Magic, average like
Person.
Twitter user.
Anyone. Yeah.
Just like can't read. If you use Twitter, you can't read.
TLDR.
Um,
You've got paragraphs in there.
I'm not reading that.
No.
There's a reason why we cap these tweets at 200 words or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just like a bad situation. I think it's just a bad look for people in general, bad look for Magic players that were willing to, allow that kind of thing to happen. And so I'm glad that the community responded the way it did. Everybody was pretty reasonable in my opinion. Like, hey, this person did this. They did the same thing to me. They play way too freaking fast. There's no way in any way, shape, or form that you can spin this story positively. It was very clearly the worst S shooting ever, and honestly just straight up cheating. The fact that you would admit it after the fact is crazy. Like, the apology is crazy, right? Like, oh yeah, sorry, I'm not taking the W though. Like later, that is crazy.
That's so wild to me.
Yeah, it just like puts an asterisk on your career. I feel like if me, because Nicole Dubin, I think just recently made it to the Pro Tour. If it's me, I really care about my reputation. I don't want to like throw it all away for one game win that might not even win you the tournament. Like, it's not like you're in the finals of like Hour of Devastation and your opponent goes to combat and forgets to cast his spell so his Hazard can attack. You know what I mean? Like, God, who would do that? But that's like, even then, that's part of the game. That's not like you cheated. That's your opponent messed up.
Well, and at the end of the day, like, I think I said this for my first RCQ. I wouldn't care so much now, like if Jeremy or Julian or whoever like scooped me to like get me to an event with them. But for an event like this, like, say you do place, do you like feel like you really like, I want to, if I ever make it, like, which my dream would be to like top 64 an event like that.
Right.
I want to feel like I earned it.
100%.
Because then I'm going to feel forever like, well, did I really deserve to be there? Like, and I don't want that. How can anyone want that?
Yeah.
Like I don't know.
I mean, it already feels bad when you win through luck.
Right.
Now you're going to cheat, like.
Right, yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of crazy. But, yeah, and I think people need to be more careful in their games in general, unfortunately, because there are just players that are going to be like this. They just care way more about it than they need to. But because there's not that much money on the line. This is not like poker. Like, if you cheat in poker, you're trying to win $1 million, bro. Yeah, okay, well, it's $1 million, bro. You wanted it. But you're cheating in Magic for like the reputation of nobody cares if you win and a couple $1,000, like, crazy, not worth the reputation to me.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like funny because I feel like a lot of people were bringing it up, but like, they're like, that's a really easy concession. Like, all the players that were like top dogs were like, I would have conceded here. Like, why wouldn't you concede here? Like, you very clearly didn't deserve it. It's like it's not that bad, but it's kind of like when Nikachu consigned to memory the activation on like Goblin Char voucher at the Energy Champs against Matt Hoey. It's like, hey, you guys messed that up. I'm not saying retroactively, but you probably should have admitted that you lost there, because like you did, and then you kind of just like went with it, and it's like, that's not what the card does.
Yeah.
And that's not even that bad. Julian at the same team event where I played against Nicole, that I had that issue with her. He played against an opponent who cast a spell through his damping sphere that he wasn't able to, and then they didn't catch it until like the next turn. But it was only like a few phases if you think about it, not even like a full turn cycle. And the judge was like, sorry, you guys missed it. This is just how it goes. That cost him the game on the spot where he would have won. And it's like, man, if you're that guy, do you think you should have conceded there? Like, you wouldn't have won if you literally would have lost 100%. Like, it wasn't like, oh, maybe I would have lost. It was
right.
like you
lost.
were going to lose
You
on
were
the
gonna
spot.
lose. Yeah.
Had you not resolved the spell that you couldn't even have put on the stack, if you were playing like Moto,
Yeah.
So it's like, where there's a little bit of nuance there, but something to think about. It's an interesting conversation. Like, how much honor goes into it? How much should we expect of each other? Like, would you expect your friend to have scooped there? Who knows? Maybe some people are different, but I think there is. I think there should be enough merit for like people to, I mean, at the very least, not cheat, but to hold ourselves accountable to like those kind of issues where it's like, oh, you know what? Yeah, no, I messed up there. And not only was that mess up, it was a guarantee. Like,
Right.
I think that's a pretty easy line to make.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this play that I shouldn't have been able to make wins me the game on the spot. But if I can't make it, which I shouldn't have, I instantly lose. It's not like 60-40, it's 100-0. I think that's like a pretty easy line to make. But who knows? Maybe this will be something that moves the community in a more positive direction in the future.
I hope it does. Yeah, I hope it does. All right. Beyond that, just more about SCG, like SCGCon Atlanta Standard. First off, before we get into like standard metagame, all that, I did just want to say that the event was run super well. Like, man, do I wish that SCG was running MagicCon Chicago? Like, they really did. Like, I felt like
I'm glad too, because Star City Games has been like really stepping it up lately. Where at the tail end before COVID, it felt like their stuff was going downhill.
yeah, it's just been very clean. Like, their event was clean. I felt like there were no issues in the day. We really didn't have delays. There was one like pairing issue. I had no issues with side events, and like you remember,
And it was run
that.
through Melee.
Yeah,
So it might not even been their. It might not even have been their fault. Melee does sometimes just crap out.
oh, absolutely. But I'm saying I didn't have any of that.
Oh,
Where-
you did. Gotcha.
Whereas, like, for, MTG Chicago, MagicCon Chicago,
Shout out, Sal.
here we go again.
4K subscribers, sog.
Yeah, MagicCon Chicago, like, you couldn't even get into the events because their systems weren't
Yeah,
working.
there was no tables. Their
Yeah.
system went down. They couldn't sell tickets. I was so
Yeah, yeah.
annoyed. And obviously, it wasn't entirely Pastime's fault. But like, if my face is on something, I'm very quickly trying to figure that shit out.
Right.
They didn't let me play in the standard event that started at like 11. I was trying to register since 9.
Right.
And they were like, oh yeah, it's too late now.
Oh, yeah, you waited for a full hour.
I waited for a full hour in
full
line.
hour in
Because
line.
they were like, oh, the system's down. Okay, I will wait. Oh, you waited? Yeah, you're dumb. You can't play now.
can't play.
Oh, I guess I'm fucking dumb.
Okay.
And so like, well, I guess I'll go play standard side events, which, won me a box because I get to play one singular side event.
Yeah.
After that, it was like, oh yeah, we don't have any space for you standard nerds. It's all Commander, baby.
Miserable.
It was just, yeah. That's partially why I don't want to go this year, because I'm like, I'm so busy with the store. Why would I take time off to go have a bad time again? That's just the truth.
Yeah. But anyway, point being, they ran a great event. Need more of them. Bye, Dad.
Bye, Sal. Thank you so much.
We love you.
See you in the future, the rest of the podcast.
We'll see this later.
Shout out Sal for everything he does. He was
Yeah.
here helping us out, making sure the camera works. Because I couldn't get it to work last time. If you guys remember, I was really, really pissed off because I'm dumb.
It was rough. It was rough having us like go through like all the fixes and stuff, and like you and
Well, it was an hour and a half of fixes just to not make it work. That's
Yeah,
why I was so
right,
mad last time.
Right. Well, especially too, like we were already recording late. It was like 11 or something.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh man. And then like because of like the delays, it was like 12:30, and it was like, okay,
Yeah,
here
yeah.
we go.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, the standard breakdown. How many decks there were? So there were 217 on Demir midrange, 197 of Gruul aggro. That's actually not fully accurate because there's a Gruul prowess. I don't know what's different. Of another-
Aggro and prowess are different now, technically, because the Gruul aggro that's really popularized right now is this like Innkeeper's Talent, really grindy, questing druid focused. And then the prowess deck is like pure slick shot, like I want to one shot you.
Oh, got it. So different. But
Yeah. No, there's like 4 or 5 aggro decks in the format.
Yeah. And I know that there's a lot of red variants, but like I have seen Innkeeper's Talent. I always think the Innkeeper's Talent personally is worse than like just playing.
Apparently, right now it's good only because of where the meta is. Like Demir midrange, Pixie, all these weird decks that they're not killing you very quickly, and they're also not playing very much counter magic, right? So their late game isn't as good. They're not like locking you out, right?
Sure.
Sunfall's also kind of down, so now you have like this ability to just grind them out, and like one questing druid just kind of blows them out.
Oh,
Also, the fact that all you guys have counters, that ward 1 kind of comes up a lot.
A lot. Then there is Golgari midrange that was 126 decks.
Yeah.
As per Pixie was 85. Domain was 80. Caretakers was 77. Mono Red was 68. Jeskai was 59. Oculus was 46. Beans, Simic Beans was 42. 37 Otters players, 28 Boros Agros players, 27 Azorius Aggro.
You can see all this on the. We'll link it, by the way. It'll be in the show notes. But like there was a very clear top five decks, which was like the aggro, the Dimir mid range deck that's just been around, Esper Pixie coming in hot, which is like a brand spanking new deck. Coming out of the woodworks, kind of like Esper Fae, or I guess like
there was Feyblade.
Feyblade was already like a deck.
Feyblade was a deck that was not good,
and they kind of like more or less figured it out with honestly, it's just the Dimir.
It was like the Dimir cards.
We'll get into it. Where like I think Esper Pixie is like an overrated deck later, but it feels like they were like, oh, all these really good Dimir cards, and then like gave all the credit to the Pixie, which I feel like didn't do any of the work. It was like Fear of Isolation, like you said, fucking great card. Yeah. This town ain't big enough is doing the Lord's work for the deck. I mean, it's so good that if you are playing the white and not playing just the Dimir version, you can play your own temporary lockdowns in a deck full of 1s and 2s, which is kind of cool. Yeah. I think it's an interesting archetype. Domain coming in hot, still a top 5 deck, top 6 if you want to call it, with Caretakers. And 126 Golgari players just registering their deck to lose. It's crazy. Golgari feels like the people that were playing Rakdos mid-range at last year's Magic Con for the Pro Tour.
When like Vampires was played.
Yeah.
And to be fair, Vampires was new for that event.
Yeah.
So,
but like they should have known, I feel like
Rakdos was not very good. Rakdos wasn't very good even without the Vampires being better.
It was like fine, but Vampires was. I mean, Soren's banned now, so it didn't even take a year.
Yeah. Well, okay, and so with all of those percentages of what decks were played and how many people played those decks, to be fair, we're saying 217, 197, 126. There were 1,500 people that played in the event.
Yeah, so for context, Dimir mid-range was literally 15% of the room.
Yes.
Which is 1 in 7-ish? No, 8. It's like an 8. 1 in 8.
So of the day, or a few days, right? Dimir mid-range had a 53% win rate. Gruul Aggro had a 54% win rate. As Stan said about these Golgari players, 43%. Big rough.
I don't want to win. Sleeve up a Glissa.
Pixie was at 58%. Domain was at 51. Mono White was at 51. Red Deck was at 48. I won't name that.
Wow, Jeskai Kamoka 45.
Yeah.
It's crazy too because Jim Davis, I'm pretty sure started off 6-0 with that deck.
Yeah.
He was carrying the win percentages.
Yeah, the Cage deck did the other thing to talk about. The Cage deck had a 60% win rate.
Yeah, Cage deck overperformed. And honestly, I'm glad it did because that deck made sense for this tournament. I feel like GP Atlanta, so if you're in the Discord, you already know I'm a Pixie hater. But
big time
Pixie hater. But I feel like this tournament specifically was such a meta call tournament. More than most, where we already knew what standard looked like for a month before this tournament. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden everybody was like, hey, remember all that cooking we haven't been doing? Let's do it now.
Now.
And so that's cool because that's what happens usually when a big tournament comes up. Partially why Modern looks the way it does now, which is not very much cooking, is because there's no tournament. As soon as the RC comes up, I promise you there's going to be but yeah, Pixie started popping up. Cage started popping up. All these new decks popped up right at the sweet spot where players don't have enough time to get the cards, but if they do they have enough time to prep with the deck? And if they are prepping with the deck, are they good enough to keep playing the deck, or should they pivot back to what they were already doing? Because we probably agree that of the 80 Pixie players, 85. Probably some of those players shouldn't have been playing Pixie.
Oh, for sure. That's for every deck. There's someone that's playing it that's like that.
Yeah, all the Golgari players shouldn't have been playing it. But sorry.
I was in the middle of drinking.
Yeah, my bad.
I was going to spit take that.
But no, what I mean is like there's always a new deck that pops up, and if you haven't practiced it enough, or you're not ready for it, or you don't really understand the nuances of the deck, you're one of those players that are like giving the deck some bad statistics. So there's always going to be some of that. With that being said, Esper Pixie did perform pretty well for the context of just objectivity, like this tournament, 58% win rate across the board, pretty good. Cage though, way overperforming, right? Like
Yeah.
60% is crazy.
Yeah, because
That's like ban rates number.
yeah,
But like obviously one tournament.
right, one tournament, and like the data, in my opinion, should get better for decks that like are only played by 24 people. Like, you know what I mean? Like Dimir Midrange has a 53% win rate when there were 2,349 matches of Dimir Midrange.
Yeah.
Versus like when you talk about Cage, there were 198
Right.
total matches. So it's
Yeah.
like you can't say that like it's 7% better than Dimir Midrange.
Right.
Because
well, and that's how I feel about Pixie too. It's a great point because people were like, people I was arguing with, which to be fair, obviously I think you can make a really easy argument for both sides, but who were saying how well Pixie performed in the format,
which is that's my opinion.
Yeah, which is fair.
I'm
I
on
think,
the side of like it was a good meta call, and it's not a bad deck.
Yeah, I think it was a terrific meta call. I just think that if the deck were good, in the way that I think the Dimir version of the deck is, the Dimir Bounce version, it should have performed higher, in my opinion. Like Cage, I think performed as well as it should have for what the deck is, because Pixie and Cage, if we're being honest, people played those decks because they are so good against Dimir midrange. Both of them. I mean, Cage just crushes Dimir midrange because every guy in their deck has one toughness, and they're just like, cool, all my guys have trample, and they're huge. You lose. And they're just so efficient. Like, if you get to Cage out an Overlord, Dimir can't handle Overlord of the Mistmores.
Yeah, and Cage against Red is really strong because you go wider than they do, faster. And so, like...
Yeah, and the flying blockers really do make a difference. I mean, flying blockers right now in the format are so good. That's why Siren Stormtamer is getting played like it is, in addition to being able to draw you cards with Enduring Curiosity, obviously.
Oh, yeah. I think that's what made Mono White actually become relevant again, was them being like, 4 Overlord of the Mistmores. Because as a Dimir player, if that card lands, I'm like, I've lost.
Yes. Yeah, no, literally. It's like, well, GG. And that's what Cage gives the Selesnya deck, obviously, the ability to cheat it out. But even without it, it's such a grindy, efficient deck that doesn't completely fold to Sunfall, even though it kind of does. So, like, obviously, Caretakers will probably beat up on Cage, right? But there wasn't that much Caretakers. And even if there is, it's not like you'll completely fold to the deck. So, like, my issue with Pixie is I feel like this was their deck to win based on, like, this tournament being super meta-cally. Like, we knew everyone was going to be playing Dimir. And for what it's worth, even though we think Golgari sucks here, not everybody agrees with us, clearly. So we also knew...
They're wrong.
We also knew there was going to be a ton of Golgari players. And so...
And people are still playing it, even after these results.
Yeah, and maybe, like, if you adapt the deck list, it's probably objectively not bad, but, like, it's really doing...
Do you need help? we can help you.
Yeah, like, Golgari is... it's really struggling right now, but I think that's just I think it's a lack of adapting to the format. Like, Golgari's list hasn't really changed that much, while the format's just changing around it. And I mean, it is a rock deck, so like, it's not supposed to, right? But it is unfortunate to see where the deck is, and I think it does have potential still. They just have to they got to figure their stuff out, or maybe they need a vehicle coming out of like Aether Drift. They need a fucking vehicle. Like, give them a Seeker's Chariot. Like, yeah, Jesus Christ.
Oh no, please. Don't do that.
And so I fully expected Pixie to do better. Going into the tournament, I was like, man, this is like Pixie's tournament to win. Like, if you're rooting if you're rooting for it in like the perspective of the deck and not the players playing the deck, you're kind of thinking, well, man, you beat up like about a fifth or a fourth of the room on paper. Like, your deck is supposed to win against this deck X number of times more than Y. Okay, well then how come none of you guys top aided, you know? And I'm like, going into it, new deck, new format ish, I would have expected two of them, you know, two of them in top 8. Maybe you don't win the tournament, but like multiple top 16s, 1 to 2 in top 8. Like your deck was like primed to win the event. And maybe you could argue the existence of Cage kind of held it back, because I think Cage is actually good against Pixie. Obviously there's game. It's not like a free win, but I think because Pixie plays in such a similar way to Dimir with all these low power creatures, low power, low toughness, they don't block very well, and temporary lockdown isn't that good against Cage, right? They have tokens, but they have some 3-drops that kind of just like blow them out of the water. Not even talking about the Overlord of the Mistmores. So, and Overlord of Mistmores is obviously also good against Pixie, right? So like I feel like Cage can beat Pixie in the head-to-head. That might have, held its numbers back a bit for this tournament specifically. But I just, even though I had a good performance, does it repeat this at the next tournament? Or does it go, oh, now that people know about the deck, will it just get pushed down? And then to me, it's like, well, if you lose any ground in the format after you lost the event that should have been yours to win, I feel like people need to pivot off of it to Dimir.
So here is my take on why I think that Pixie, because I still think that 58% is great.
Yeah, no, 100%. Don't disagree.
There were 1,000 matches of Pixie, but I don't think that Pixie is actually that good against the red variants.
Oh, for sure.
And that's what I think held the deck back, is because there was almost as many red player Gruul players and red players as there was.
So like this town is kind of good against red though, right?
Yeah, it is and it isn't. So okay, this I'm only doubling down on this. Even,
no, you're good.
Even more so because I just played the Dimir bounce version this weekend. But like I was trying to I thought that this deck, and this is getting into a little bit later, I thought that this deck was going to be so easy to sideboard with because it's so close to Dimir midrange that I was like, I don't really need to make a guide. Mm-hmm. Wrong. I ended up like, there are some cards that are so easy to sideboard, like 6 cards that you're like, oh, cool, I'm playing against Domain, cutdowns come out, no order runs come out. But then you get into like red or Dimir and you're like, okay, what cards are bad here? Because all these seem super efficient and even cleaner than the Dimir listed. I don't know what to move. And I found myself when I was playing against red being like, I don't really want to bounce a Manifold Mouse, because if I do, they can now offspring it.
Oh, yeah.
And so there's multiple creatures like that.
Well, if you bounce the token, though, you feel freaking amazing.
Oh my gosh, yes. If you bounce a token, but I meant like, if they play it on turn 2, right? If they go Heartfire on 1, the other thing on 2, you're like, oh, because you're wanting to use your Nowhere to Run on the Heartfire hero,
right? So
that you're not taking the damage of it getting bigger, because they can just be like Rockvale.
Well, if you bounce it, you're not taking the damage either. But yeah, I see your point.
Yeah, and so and Questing Druid was the other one. Questing Druid was the second card where I was like, I don't want to bounce that, because if I do, then they get to draw more.
Yeah, that's the big issue with Questing Druid, I think, for sure, because of Seek the Beast.
Yeah, and so Manifold Mouse and Questing Druid are both creatures that I was like, not.
Questing Druid all of a sudden turns into a what Mouse Dread Knight thinks he is.
Yeah, like it that felt really bad. And so for those reasons, I thought Tonic Big Enough isn't always good in this specific situation.
For sure. I do like though the card itself. It's like last episode of the podcast we talked about how efficient the format is and how just being able to tap your opponent's stuff is so high impact. And I still think cards like tap them and make 2 fairies. What is it called?
Fable Trick.
Yeah, I still think cards like Fable Trick are super high impact. Obviously, it's a little bit down in meta share right now. The card is struggling a bit, but Flood Pitch Runner, like the tapping is so good. If tapping is good, for sure bouncing is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I don't disagree. I think
that's why I like the deck. It's like
I think
combos would go for the throw really well.
Yeah, I think that this Tonic Big Enough is the best removal spell in the entire format. I think it's so good. It's just that there are some edge cases where it's not so good, and that's why I think that Pixie isn't always great against red decks. Because the thing is too is all your creatures are small.
Yeah.
and if you don't have nowhere, and even right nowhere to run, sometimes like if you're not playing very clean and very tight, they can get you.
Yeah.
Like they can go cool. Spell prowess, monstrous rage. It's not bigger than a 3. Not dying.
Yeah.
Not dying.
Yeah.
And so like that is also part of like.
Well, Gorilla just has a lot of resilience. People got to stop treating it like just an aggro deck, which we've talked about already.
It's not. I felt when I was just playing the normal Dimir mid range that deck, if they got enough Question Groot hands, could outgrind me.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm playing the Curiosity deck. Like, Enduring Curiosity. Like, what do you mean that you're...
Question Druid is a really, really cool card.
Yeah, and not enough love.
Well, maybe not. 12%, 14% of the metagame at the GP.
Yeah. Oh, and,
or more.
And for reference of what he was talking about, Asper Pixie had no decks in top 8, 2 decks in top 16, 5 total decks in top 32. Which, again...
Top 32 performance is pretty solid.
Yeah, well, especially when you think about, like, what record is that? It's like 12-3 or something. Like, really high. There's 9 rounds day 1 and 7 or 6 day 2.
Yeah, so it's probably like, 11 wins.
Yeah, like
11 wins.
Yeah.
12 wins maybe.
So...
Still really, really good performance.
Yeah, I think...
Like, objectively, like, if this was already a deck that existed, I think objectively it's a good performance. My issue only comes from the fact that it's new deck, new tech, surprise factor, poised for the format, designed to beat up on the format as it currently exists before the deck existed. That's where my letdown comes from. Everything else, it's like, you did great. Because now Esper is a part of like the eco. So the next big standard event, whenever that is, MagicCon.
MagicCon.
Is going to be part of the eco now. It's going to be one of the decks that you're considering. Where before that might have been something that slips under people's radar, or that people just don't have enough time to tech for. Where they're like, well, how do I change my 75 to make sure that I'm still beating up everything, including Uklari, and I can beat up the Pixie player as well. You know, so like for this tournament specifically, like think about it. Like last year, MagicCon, Righteous Empire was new.
No.
And it destroyed. It was crushing in that Pro Tour. And that's what I wanted Pixie to do. I was like, Pixie should be crushing. And I will say that I think Cage definitely held it back. And Cage honestly, like, kind of was like, this is my moment, you know? I mean, like, shout out to Doomwake, you know? He didn't rage at any kids at the event. And then went like, 10-0 or something? Like... I forgot how many wins in a row he had. He was undefeated day 1, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, did super well.
It was awesome, and watching his camera match was fun.
Well, and good for him too, because I've always considered like Doomwake in a similar realm to Spike, where I expect them to do well at events.
Yeah.
Because Tandy, who was also there, and okay, a little BM. But
Frank's not a Tandy fan.
No. Oh, and let me tell you, I'm a hater because I was a huge Tandy fan when I came back into Magic. And then as I watched the rest of his content, like he started to play bad decks.
Sure.
And like bring them to events and then like totally tank. And I'd be like it was during the Mono Green Karn time in Pioneer that he was playing like, is it Young Pyromancer? And just trying to, like, go wide with those tokens. And, like
taking a tier 2 deck to an event or whatever.
Yeah. But
probably praising the gospel. Like, this deck is so good.
Right. Exactly. And then beyond that, I just got frustrated with the whole, like, it feels like he wants to be famous. And so he would be like, well, I'm doing this crazy deck. And now we're doing this format that's between Standard and Pioneer, and now I'm a Lorcana content creator, and now I'm not, and now I am again, and sure. It's like, what I followed you for Magic, and now you're doing all this other stuff that like it's like, to me that feels like,
dude, I can't wait till you make one Star Wars video. I'm gonna be your biggest hater. No, I'm just kidding.
What's the Pure Modern? That's what that feels like to me. Like,
no, I get you.
Pure Modern's not real.
It's like the illogical hate. I get you. You're like, man, what? fuck this guy. No, I get you. I understand.
Yeah.
Why don't you take a sip of the haterade you got over there?
Oh my god.
No, for sure. I get I get the point you're trying to make, where you're like, I expect more of you, but you're doing something else, and maybe that means that I don't like your content anymore, which is fine.
Yeah, I just don't like do a thing. Do a thing well. Instead of being like, I do all these things.
Yeah.
And it's like,
I feel bad because I'm like also like kind of like a ADHD kind of like jack of all trades kind of person. But yeah, I used to like I used to like Tandy back in the day during like the SCG circuit, because it was just like whenever he was on commentary, I felt like it was going to be a good time. He has
he's
good,
a good commentator.
He has good not just that, but he has good I'm struggling on finding the right word, but like when you're good with the other commentators and you guys have good, like, not like repertoire, but like
Synergy?
yeah, kind of like he bounces off of Cedric Phillips and Sullivan and the other commentators they have at SCG pretty naturally. And so like if you put Cedric Phillips and Sullivan in the same like in the spot, they're gonna kill. But those two guys are synergy, right? They just perform. Tandy can like ditto. He can like kind of like me. Like I feel like I can like charisma slot with anybody. Partially why I do so well in retail is I can kind of connect with anybody that walks in, assuming they're not just like an asshole. And so like Tandy kind of does the same thing. I think he has a good skill of whoever's in the seat next to me, we're gonna vibe. And like unless they're just like a fucking robot, he's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
And every time I've seen his commentary pre-COVID, because I don't really watch a lot of his content now, pre-COVID when I was watching SCG stuff, no matter who was in the seat with next to him, unless it was like legit like a body pillow, he was usually doing something right. And anything he would say about the format, he had knowledge of.
Yeah.
So like I kind of like sympathize with that, because I'm also pretty washed. So like, and I don't get to play as much as you guys because I'm always stuck here like a chain chomp. So it could be hard to find your path or find your desire for something. And so like you're latching onto anything. You're like, man, well, let me try this. Let me try that. Maybe I can inspire myself, which is what I like about the podcast, because before we started this, I was pretty bored with Magic. Not just like, not as a game, but like as a player. I was like, I'm past it. And then starting this again made me really like find like a new passion for it. Like, I love the game more than ever, which is good because like it's my job.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for that.
But
honestly, especially with all the viewers, like you guys make it fun, and especially the people we hang out with, like Julian, Jared, all the people that come to the shop, Jack, Sal. Everybody makes it really fun for me to play again. And honestly, even just seeing our stuff on YouTube, it's more fun because like I have a couple hate comments and I'm like, dude, I gotta frame these. Like, these are awesome.
I know. I'm starting to get the hate comments too.
I would have
and
never.
Like, he takes those so much better than I do. I'm like,
yeah,
I'm like,
Frank is literally like High School Musical about it. How could he say this to me?
I'm over here. Like, I saw one of my content creators that I really like. Someone was slamming him in his comments, and he would just say something so petty back, and I was like, man, I want to be that. But I know that's not right. But I want to be like, well.
Yeah. The thing is, I love flaming. I actually watched a video recently where people were like talking about a content creator that I like, and they were like, oh, he's just toxic as a personality. And he's like, no, this is who I am. And I'm like, yeah, I agree. Like, I'm not saying I'm toxic, but I love shit talking. I think it's good for the game. I think it's good for any game you play. Like, I hate when I play League and they're like, oh yeah, you can't say anything anymore. You can't talk shit. You can't like banter with your opponents. Well, what's the point then? We all just gotta sit here and be like, good job, buddy. GG. You know, like nobody does that. Nobody does that. And even if you do, like, let's say you're really, really like overly nice, like Jack. Even Jack will like, let's say he wins with goblins. Of course he's gonna talk shit, like, yo, the goblins, you know what I mean? Like, and when he loses with the goblins, and we're like, nice deck, bro. He doesn't like cry because we're bantering. Like, I feel like nobody that has friends doesn't understand this. Like, if you have homies and you guys banter and like talk shit, that's how you show like the love, you know, at least in my opinion. And so if I'm playing a game and you're beating me and you can't say anything, what are we doing? You know, and so I love that, like, not like toxicity, but like that energy of competitiveness and desire to want to win, and everybody kind of taking it on the chin. I feel like obviously some people can't hang, so we treat them differently. That's fine. You know, like, you see somebody can't hang, you're like, okay, well, this guy can't hang. You know, you don't give them as much of the banter. But honestly, I feel like it closes off those people from a true connection.
Yeah.
Some of my best friends, we talk the most shit to each other, and inadvertently that makes us the most accountable to each other, where we hold each other to higher standards. Hey, why are you doing this? Seems bad. Like your RCQ with Gabe. The whole night you guys were here Friday, we were flaming him for how terrible his deck was. And if Gabe was not our friend, he would be crying because of the shit we were saying, you know? But because we're homies, he's like, yeah, no, you guys are probably right. But I also want to run it down with my crappy deck, you know? And I think there's beauty in that. And I appreciate it. I wish more people kind of would be willing to fight for that philosophy. Instead of just being like, I don't care enough. I'm too cool. I don't care. Do whatever you want. Filter everything, censor everything. It's like, oh, well, then I guess what's the point of playing, you know?
Yeah, and I don't disagree.
Why is it a social game then?
But to circle back to like what I saw, what happened was some guy came up to Tandy and was just like, hey man, I like really love your content, and like some other conversation happened. I was watching a game. Some other conversation happened, and he's like, so you want to take a picture or something? And I was like,
no, that's awkward.
I was like, whoa. Like,
if anybody comes, but if people are brave enough to like approach, I feel like it's your. I shouldn't say.
I approached Jim Davis, by the way.
Oh, nice.
At the
and
event.
he was probably super nice.
He was, but he actually seemed a little awkward. Like as we were leaving.
Oh, I mean,
like
he plays Magic.
Yeah, like I said to him, I was like, hey man, I just love your content. I love the whole bronze to mythic thing. Like every time you do it in draft, like he always takes a bronze account and runs it into mythic.
That's actually really cool.
Yeah, I love that content. And as I was leaving, I was like, yeah, man, just keep it up. I really love your content, and like, just keep at it. He was like, yeah, thanks, you too. And I was like,
well, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, it was one of
he
those.
He knows you're from Totem Tab.
No, yeah, sure. It was one of those. It was one of those though, where like your waiter hands you your
enjoy your food.
Yeah, and you're like, you too.
Yeah, this is fine.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. I just laughed because it felt like that kind of.
But that's natural.
But
right?
It was nice. It was nice.
It's natural. It means he was in the moment.
Yeah.
He wasn't overthinking it.
Right.
If they always have the right response, they prep for the conversation, or they're not listening to you. They're thinking about their next response.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So that's totally fine. I think that's awesome. Actually,
No,
I'm glad you had a good interaction because
it was awesome.
I know. I don't know why, but Jim Davis, I feel like draws a lot of heat. Like people love talking shit about Jim Davis, and I just like talking shit about people in general, right? So like if you want to talk shit, I'll talk shit with you. But I like Jim Davis. I've always liked him since like back in the day. He was and like you said, he's a nice guy. I've ran into him at a couple of SCG events back in the day when he was still making a name for himself. And yeah, I'm glad I got that interaction because like that Tandy thing you mentioned, like that's too much. That's awkward.
Well,
I feel like if somebody's willing to come approach you or be brave enough to do that, I don't want to say right, but like I feel like if you care about who you are, or if you care about, because there's something to be said about like A-listers getting approached by like 100 people a day. Sure, you want to be like, hey man, can I have a break? But like if you notice like the really, really, really nice ones like Keanu Reeves and all them, they'll still be like, hey man, I appreciate that you're a fan, you know, take a photo, whatever.
Right, because at the end of the day, they're still part of your fan base, and especially too within the Magic community.
Well, they pay your bills.
Right, exactly. Yep.
They pay your bills, and so like I don't want to say because nobody owes anybody anything at that level, but I will always find time or energy for somebody that's willing to care.
Yeah.
And so like I can't. That's such an ugly response to me.
And so back to Doomwake. What I appreciated was that he said, "I'm not gonna play like Demir." He's like, I don't want to, which is fine. But
smart.
Picked a deck for the format that like he played a ton, picked a deck that he felt like was going to be good into the format off of the work that he did, and then it was successful. And I'm like, that is what I want. out of content creators. Because
Yeah.
a lot of people within like the
Well, at
Chicago
least
community,
at that level, because his content is about grinding tournaments.
right, hate on Doom Week. They're like the energy people. They're like boo. They're like the flex out people. They're boo.
Well, I think it's because of that recent controversy he had that I was memeing about earlier.
Oh yes.
And so, like, yeah, you got to give him a little bit of shit.
Sure.
He's rebuilding his reputation from that.
Yes.
I do think his response was a little weak to it, too, where he was like, I don't like who I am as a person, blah, blah, blah. It's like, don't make it about you. You hurt somebody else, you know?
Yeah.
And if that's the case, you apologize, make it about them, and then through your actions, you make it about yourself later, where you're like, I don't do that anymore. I used to be a piece of shit. You know what I mean? People can change.
People can change.
People
Let
can
them
change.
hold the baby.
Let them hold the baby. But no, it's true. Like, every one of us has done something we regret. Every single one of us. And maybe it's more than one, you know, God forbid, you know? And every one of us has been a bully. We've probably, I think I would posture most normal people have been bullied, but have also been the bully. And I personally have experienced being the asshole a lot of times when I was younger. Like I talk about all the time where I'm like, I will literally see somebody on Facebook like, you might know this person. It's like a friend of mine from high school or middle school, and or like a person I went to school with, not like a friend, I should say. But we were friends, or maybe I was a dick to them, and I will literally like apologize. I'm like, hey, I don't know if you might not remember this, but I remember being a dick to you in this one moment at this one time, and I just want to say I'm sorry. Hated that I did that, you know. But you can never really reflect on it unless you take the time to do so. And so, like for all the hate Doom Week gets, one, I think that he did really well at this tournament, but two, I think he will do okay in rebuilding his reputation. I just think that people need to like realize that it's not about you, you know.
Yeah.
You will prove. You don't have to prove anything to anybody, but you will show it through your actions naturally. Like people that don't know me might be like, "Oh, that guy's a dick or a piece of shit or whatever," right? But like, I don't get a lot of it. I think because I know enough people that I've had conversations with people where they're like, "Oh yeah, some other guy at this other store was saying this," and I was like, "You don't know him then." You know what I mean? Like your friends will fight for you. They'll be like, that's not true. You know, there's no way. And
I don't know, I felt that way kind of, especially with my ex, because sometimes like, you know, you and I would be arguing about stuff and she'd like say something. I'm like, oh, no. Stan, you sometimes you rub me the wrong way, but like, I know who you are and like, know that like, right. If my back was in the wall, like was to the wall, I know you're there.
Right.
You know what
exactly.
I mean? So it's like, yes, sometimes you piss me off.
Exactly.
But like, I know at the end of the day that like where you're gonna be.
Right. It's like when we play League with Winter and like I'm like barking at Winter because she's like trolling or something, and then somebody else says some shit. I'm like, the fuck? And then her and I all of a sudden start talking shit to that person. Who are you? Who are you? Get the fuck out of here. What's it called? But no, it's true. It's true. Like we banter, we beat up on our own friends. It's kind of like werewolves, you know. But like as soon as somebody attacks the pack, it's like, huh? And so I feel like through your actions and the way you interact with people, they will fight for you on the front lines elsewhere, and your reputation will speak for itself. So you don't have to like, don't say it is what I'm trying to say. I guess like over complicating it. Like you don't need to tell us what you're gonna do. Just fucking do it. Yeah, I promise we will see it.
Yeah, I think that you should like make an effort to at least be like, I'm gonna work on some things.
Yeah.
But then do like I don't need like 3 paragraphs
if they're asking
of you telling me all the things you're going to be doing.
If you're being asked for a response, sure.
But
I agree.
You should at least be like have some self-reflection in your response to people.
Because I feel like people, not to get all preachy, but people don't appreciate how their effort actually impacts everybody wants it to happen right away.
Right.
The effort you put in today will pay off tomorrow. It will. Every little good thing you do stacks, but the same is true in the inverse. Like every bad decision you make, all the bad habits, every monster I drink, you know, it all stacks in the inverse. It's all kind of like holding you back. And the little things matter way more than people like to give credit for. So like, oh, all I did today was go for a walk. Cool. All I did today was played one league. Well, you're that much better now. It's all going to start stacking towards whatever goal you want to do. Just pick the goal and work towards it.
Yeah. To keep a headstone on this, recently I've been doing more RCQs. I did another one this weekend. I pivoted to blue black bounce instead of
Love blue black balance. So cool.
Instead of blue black mid range. Main reason is I think that the Pixie deck is sweet. I think that it did well, but to what Stan and I have previously talked about, the mana base is egregious.
Oh yeah,
it's terrible, and the payoff of playing it is like Pixie, Scavenger, sideboard cards. That's it.
Optimistic Scavenger, is that the name of the card?
Yes.
I really don't like that card.
I think it's mid.
The sideboarding to me is the, besides the Pixie obviously.
Right.
The sideboarding does give you some tools that maybe is worth the mana base being terrible, but I don't know if it is, man. That mana base is horrific.
I played against games where I'm playing blue black mid range and I would beat my Pixie opponent where they would ping themselves 5 or 6 times in a game.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if I ever turn the aggro on, which Dimir mid-range can, like flash dude, maps.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Die. That part I think is really rough. But why I pivoted, kind of. Blue black bounce. I think into, if people are going to keep playing Dimir mid-range, and I think they will.
Yeah. 100%. The Dimir mid-range isn't bad now.
No.
It just is a deck in the format.
Yeah. And
it performed pretty well even through the GP with decks hating it out. I think it still got to top 8. Like you said, it was 52, 53% win rate. The other decks aren't percentages better, if anything.
Yeah.
It was probably more people playing Dimir that should have been playing any other deck than there were people playing the totality of the other decks.
Yeah, and the part of the main reason I'm pivoting too is I'm just getting deck fatigue. Like,
Sure.
I'm just getting tired of.
That's a good point,
playing
man.
To
That's
be
a good
mid-range. I don't want to do it anymore. I've done like so much grinding. I did 3 RCQs with it. I did this GP, and then the next day was doing the 10K and then our ECQ.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I
think that's a great point. That's why I was trying to talk to Julian about in a way where he wasn't pivoting off of Golgari, and he had not a great time at the Grand Prix.
No.
And I think it's because he didn't change. Not only was he like, yeah, I'm still playing Golgari, and I don't think he was happy with it. It wasn't a good deck choice for the weekend. But to your point about the deck fatigue, he's playing a deck that he already doesn't enjoy anymore, and it's getting worse. So I think that's like mental boom, right? And he won his RCQ with it at Pastimes a month ago. So it's like, well, you already got your RC invite. Now's the time for you to experiment, try different decks out, etc. And obviously there's something to be said about the budget. It's not like all of us can just be like, ooh, download my arena deck and
buy it.
Sleeve it up.
Yeah, right.
That's honestly why I didn't go to any RCQs this season so far, is because I don't have the decks. Like, I thought about going to an RCQ today, but we were going to record and I didn't want to troll Sal. And then yesterday, obviously, I had work, but I was like, even if I wanted to go this weekend, the decks that I want to play, I don't have right now, and I don't want to have to be like, hey, 4 days to an event, build me a deck, Brandon, you know what I mean, or somebody. That's so trolly, and so that's like one of the reasons also why I'm like struggling with wanting to go to MagicCon, where like I thought about it, but I'm like, man, Aether Drift's going to be legal. So I don't even have a deck right now.
I'm so hyped.
I'm so excited for you guys, honestly, though. Even though it sucks that I don't get to play as much, I love kind of like being like the coach from the background, and like I'll be in Discord waiting for the results, like, yo, what's happening, what's going on, tell me all the events. If I see somebody that's on camera, we had some people in California for Lorcana, and so we could like track their results on Melee, which is kind of fun. So people were doing that in the Discord for the board hat as well. I love watching my troops play on the front lines.
Yeah. Right, I pivoted because I think that Tiny Big Enough, one of the best removal cards in the format. Storm Chaser's Talent is just so cool.
Just a great
and
card.
So good. And then beyond that, Fear of Isolation into more Dimir players blocks every creature in the sky.
Yeah.
Like all of the flying creatures
Your
get blocked.
station is amazing against Overlord too.
Well, and I didn't realize until I tried to do it in at the GP, the removing a card, like the picking up a card and putting it back into your hand, is an additional cost.
Yeah,
It's
yes.
not a trigger. And so I like tried to Shaunus it, and I was like, you just get whatever you just
Yeah.
get it back. I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
so
It's beautiful. Honestly, can I just say that this deck, the Dimir deck, and obviously Pixie does the same thing. I really love the synergies, and it really is like an amalgamation of what makes Magic beautiful to me. And if you think about it, a lot of it you could have learned just by playing Limited. If you played Limited and looked at the archetypes and the ideas that they were pushing at you, it kind of reminds me of like not a great draft format, but Khans of Tarkir when that came out really wanted you to play their clans, and they made it so obvious. I mean, so obvious that like everybody was playing Absent that first weekend. I remember my buddy Evan Osmond top 8ing at Pastimes with Siege Rhino that weekend, and he was always the Golgari guy. So like the fact that he was playing Absent, we're like, dude, there you go, it's your time. And
your time's now.
By like the next month, I was playing Sultai, which was another one of the clans. And it was like super obvious what you wanted to do, but at the same time, you kind of had to find it. Like that Sultai deck was hidden, and then people were like, "Wait, you could whip shit in." Oh, okay, cool. And that's kind of like where it feels like Esper Pixie. Like people were trying Feyblade. Feyblade sucked. People tried every set that came out since Thunder Junction. People tried Feyblade, and it sucked every time.
yeah, it's not
And
good.
then-
I tried it. I brought it here. I sleeved
Yeah.
it up, brought it here.
I
It was
mean,
bad.
Gabe and I were trying Feyblade when Outlaws first came out. Like, this has to be good. Orzhov. Just wasn't working. And I guess it took till Foundations, right? But if you look at the deck, it's like, it's literally just draft chaff. It's just draft chaff the deck. And the way that they synergize Storm Chasers Talent, like you said, I make a guy, bounce me, I make another guy. All these guys have prowess. They want you to be casting. The ultimate on it, the class 2 or whatever, level up, getting the spells back, even more synergy. The black room that they play, where it's like, oh, cards leaving your graveyard makes you men. But honestly, we're not even playing it for this. The 1-drop room buys you back the guys. And the whole deck kind of just like chains in a circle of just super cast mode, but you're not. It's like you're playing a storm deck.
Oh, yes.
It
absolutely.
really is a fun spell slinger deck.
I was playing against a mono red opponent in the last round of this RCQ. I won. I went 4-2. Unfortunately, only one. Jack was 9th and I was 11th. So we both missed top 8
Yeah.
by like percentage points.
Yeah.
And
But you guys are
1-4.
both 4 and 2.
Yeah,
Nice.
1-4-2 maybe.
Hey, shout out to Shaq, man.
And unfortunately,
9th is rough though. Oh,
yeah,
God.
I know he missed it by again. There was 1-4-2 that made it, and he was 9th. So unfortunate. But I'm not kidding. I just had a loop of like my opponent was building a board, and I was like, I've got all this mana. I'm going to buy back Town Ain't Big Enough. I'm going to bounce my Hopeless Nightmare and my
His
Storm
whatever.
Chaser's Talent.
Oh, both of your stuff.
Yeah, both of my
Nice.
stuff. Replay Storm Chaser's Talent, replay Hopeless Nightmare, go to your turn, cool, level it up again, buy back Town Ain't Big Enough,
yeah,
doop.
That cycling is just, it's so beautiful.
I crushed an Oculus player with a Haughty Djinn, an Oculus, and 2 dudes out, and they couldn't swing because they were getting so low, and I had
Yeah.
bodies and just kept looping
Yeah.
until they died. And it was like,
If you, I don't actually remember. If you bounce the manifest, they don't get the card, right? It's just it's like a token.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Because
but
it is a card of yours that's face down, and you do get to turn it face up.
yeah, so maybe it is. Because it's represented with a token, but it's not a token.
Yes.
Yeah, so they would get the card.
And I don't wanna
I'm
do-
thinking of the Ugin. That's what I'm thinking of. Ugin Ineffable.
Oh, yes. I know what you're talking about.
God, fuck that card. But yeah, I mean, just a really cool deck, honestly. I mean, Standard is just beautiful right now. Can I just say that these bands, like, they I have never seen a more successful unbanned BNR like ever. Like since December, it's funny because I remember saying like 2025 is gonna be so good for Magic, as if it's not already like the biggest game. But like Magic is awesome right now. I think you made a short that was like 2025 is the year for Magic, because I had said something like that, and like every format's really looking good. I've been playing Legacy, having a good time. Modern is kind of shaping up with these new unbans. We'll see some more adaptations, I think, come closer to the RC. Standard looks phenomenal. Pioneer, if you are playing it, is not bad. It's just nobody's just playing it because Watsy hates Pioneer.
Yeah, it's
Just
so
kidding.
sad. It's so sad.
I think it's unfortunate that there's not more Pioneer events. Maybe a Grand Prix will be a Pioneer. Pioneer Grand Prix is still possible. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, it's so possible.
There's a lot of I feel like there's a lot of adaptation to be made in that format as well. Just like Standard just got, with like all these decks that popped up. I think the next Grand Prix that gets announced for Pioneer, everything's gonna just get like, you know.
I just hope that like Watsy will see the data of like Pioneer and no one playing it and whatever, and then be like, okay, we're gonna make Q4 or whatever Pioneer season.
I think they have to know, right? I think we touched about it before, but they must know that their decisions affected Pioneer, but they're paying off Standard and Modern right now, especially Standard. And I do think the fruits of them investing in Standard is going to give us a lot more Pioneer support.
Well, I 100%
Rotation will just.
I 100% agree with that. Yeah, 100% agree with that.
I mean, imagine you old Shield Drids after rotation. Like, I'm not dumping these. I'm going to go play Pioneer.
Yeah, well, and I don't think that. I agree with Standard is going to make Pioneer better, and the rotation is going to help that too. But my hope is that they're going to see, oh, well, we don't have to like stop doing this thing while we're investing.
Yes.
That's what I think like is where.
Oh, for sure. I think that they just really wanted to like hammer down Standard, and going forward it'll be a lot more normalized. But I have to imagine a Grand Prix coming up will be Pioneer. There's no way it's just going to be RCQs, only Standard, no Pioneer Grand Prix. Not even one? That'd be crazy. Because it's going to be Grand Prix RC, Grand Prix RC, right? I think that's the change that they said they were going to make.
I have no
1 month
idea.
is a Grand Prix, 1 month is RC.
I'm thinking to Magic.
Oh, no, sorry. Grand Prix Pro Tour, Grand Prix Pro Tour, if I'm not mistaken.
That's all I'm thinking about. I can't. Besides MagicCon and these RCQs the next couple weekends, I'm like.
Yeah, no, for sure. What's it called? Did you have more to talk about in Standard?
No.
Well, actually, I wanted to bring up.
I'll be doing Blue Black.
You've been playing a lot of Standard, a lot of these tournaments. They're having so many 6-round RCQs.
I've done.
Like mine was 6. Pastimes was 6. I think my next one's gonna be 6 again.
No, please.
Sorry.
No.
People just want to play the format right now, but it's bringing. I think it really is bringing the best out of people too, because the format, it's hard to win right now, at least in our area. I mean, Midwest Supremacy, we talked about it, but like Theo Jung, like you said at the Pastimes event, Theo Jung, who just won the NRG champs, started off 0-2 before he went 4-2, I believe, like you said.
No, that was. I went 1-2 to 4-2. Theo Jung went 0-2 and left.
Oh, there you go. See, like that's how grindy it is right now. Theo Jung is a terrific Standard player. Like he's very good at Standard, and he's like 0-2 drops at an RCQ local to us, 6-rounder, you know. And he was right. I mean, he wasn't going to afford to make it top 8. I mean, Frank didn't make it top 8 with a better win percentage after winning his like first or second round. So like
I won my second round.
Yeah, so like you would have had a better tiebreakers than him after starting 0-2, and that's like a great player. I think you said you lost to Will Kruger.
Yeah.
Well, you lost to Will Kruger in like the first round, right? Will Kruger is like the same guy that was playing with Theo Jung at the Pro Tour. There's a photo with those guys next to like the Channel Fireball dudes.
Yeah, I'm so tired of like. I just feel like he's becoming my end. Like I always like Kaz is another great player that comes around a lot. Kaz is like my end boss. I never beat him in RCQs. Mm-hmm. I've beaten Will at RCQs.
Yeah.
But like this season specifically, I faced him the
He has
last
your number.
3 events.
Well, I mean,
it was
Will Kowalczyk probably feels the same way about you.
That's
You know what I mean?
true.
Where
I did.
Will's like, man, I've been beating Frank in this season specifically. I'm like 0-3 against Frank.
Yeah. Okay. You're fair.
You know?
Will's a great player.
Will's a great player.
So
so like you're losing to Will Kruger. I mean, if I'm going to lose to anybody, I hope it's somebody of that caliber.
Yes, it's true. But like my thought, the way I think about it is like I think that I'm like at the caliber of some of these players.
Yeah.
And so
Well, it's easy to imposter syndrome yourself when you're like, I'm clearly not as good as him. I'm losing.
Well, I just think to myself the same with the RCQs and why I'm mad that like now I've lost two in the finals already. I'm like, the more I lose when I get there, the higher percentage that like I'm gonna convert.
Sure.
And so for me, it's like now that I'm faced him, like when I faced him, I sat down and I was like, all right, I'm winning this. Like the percentage that I'm gonna lose 3 times is like lower. I'm eventually gonna get this win. And then I lost.
Well, don't
again.
do that. That's sunk cost fallacy, right? Like, I can't lose 7 in a row. Well, well. But no, for sure. Like, there's something said about like the confidence. Like, you just gotta go into it. Like, well, you know, I think I can win. I think I'm at his level, and if he wins, he had it. Maybe I play. Maybe you make a misplay. Maybe, but
I did.
There is enough variance.
I for
You know,
sure didn't sideboard correctly. And figured it out as the tournament went on.
Well,
and I
you
was
did
like,
make a last minute pivot. You know, so there's
Yeah.
something to be said about that. Was he also playing a different deck, or did he stick to Demir?
Okay, so that was the thing. Was he in like if you saw Kamari's post?
Yeah.
It was off of Will's post. He was looking to play my version,
Ah.
and so I, knowing that.
Oh, in the Discord, I see.
Yeah, I thought that he was in the Energy Discord. I thought that Will was playing the blue-black bounce, and
Yeah.
the cards were showing that like it was the same cards that overlapped, so I didn't know. And so I played a Kaito on 4, like hard cast, ticked up. He just had it to Shauna's out, and I was like, all right, well, what is he gonna do?
Yeah.
Flashes in a fairy mastermind, and I was like, he's still on the Demir
Yeah,
mid-range
yeah.
version. No, and then Kaito died, and I lost that game. Went to game 2, and I was like, oh man, like, and he's,
Yeah.
and then at the match ended, and he was like, I was trying to get that deck, I couldn't get the cards together, and I was like, I was right. You were trying to play this, you just didn't get it
Yes,
together. And
exactly.
so like I was playing preemptively, thinking, oh, he's gonna be playing what I'm playing,
Yeah.
and he admitted afterwards that he was.
Oh, so you guys talked about it?
Yeah.
See, there you go. That's a real indicator when you're sitting down with somebody and they don't just walk away after they win.
Oh yeah, we chatted for for a couple minutes.
That's how you guys know. That's how that. I think somebody asked me in the Discord, like, how do you know if a player is good? It's the post game chat. It's the post game chat, the post game lobby. I'm telling you, you can't just be putting everybody on mute like in League of Legends. You got to talk about the game.
Yeah, like I asked him about some sideboard, like what I think he should be doing
Yeah.
against him, and like he was like, "Oh, I really feared this deck. Like I'm scared as a mid-range player playing into this," and so.
Oh, you have to be.
We had a
It's
good,
like the same deck. Your cards cost 1 less than his.
and my flyer's bigger.
Yeah, it's crazy. I really like Fear of Isolation. I hope that there's
Card is
more
crazy.
more of this bounce stuff happens for the rest of the year. I don't know if it'll be Feyblade, but whatever we get from the new sets, I want to bounce Spider-Man using Cloud's sword and
Podcast is
and
gonna
he's
end today.
and he's
We gotta-
riding a smuggler's copter.
We gotta be done now. I'm losing it. I gotta go to the bathroom so bad.
Okay.
We're getting into Spider-Man.
All right, no worries. Modern metagame, Boros Energy is still the best deck, but Demir is super cool and it has like basically the same meta share. This new Oculus Demir Frog deck is awesome. Makes me feel like happy that we don't have grief, honestly.
Makes me wish I got Oculus's way long ago.
Oh, I know, everybody, you and me both. Format hasn't really changed since the last time we talked. Still a lot of stuff going on. Mox Opal's cool. Faithless Looting is cool. The unbans work right. Nothing's going crazy yet. We'll see what happens when we get closer to the RC. Maybe somebody figures it out. Maybe Aether Drift gives us like the most broken graveyard card of all time, and then it'll be over. With that being said, though, I think we can pretty much wrap it up here. It's been like about 2 hours. Sal helped us fix this, so hopefully for you guys, the camera looks good.
And there's no more delay.
Yeah, and there shouldn't be audio delay anymore, but If there is issues, we'll look into it as always, and we appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Shout outs as always. Sal helping us out. Check out his channel, MTG Chicago. He just got 4,000 plus subscribers. Check out our boy Goblin Ringleader. He's in our squad. We're always practicing with. He got just 300 subscribers on his channel, which is awesome. Pretty new channel. And subscribe to us if you haven't. Really appreciate it. If you're just watching the show for free, as always, thank you guys so much for viewing. And if you want to just check if you're subscribed, it really goes a long way. Shout out to our patrons. As always, you guys are the best, keeping the lights on, helping us, supporting the show. It really does go a long way for us. And shout out to Nancy Steroids for the intro and outro music. It might be playing now, it might not be. I don't actually know how we do the edit yet. But Nancy Steroids does our intro and outro music, and he does the music for when Frank is streaming. I think he recently dropped some new stuff.
He did. He just dropped a new song.
I was gonna say, I was listening to Frank's stream and I was like, I haven't heard that one. And if you're into, what is it, lo-fi? If you're into lo-fi, it's actually pretty decent music. I like it and enjoy it. I'm not much of a lo-fi person, but I don't mute Frank's stream when I'm listening. And so like...
And he cooks. He really does. Like he just sits in his basement and is just like playing with beats.
Yeah. I mean, there's something to be said about people that just invest in their hobby, and if you're just doing that, eventually you're gonna make something nice. But yeah, so shout outs as well to Borsat Gaming, where we record. If you want to check out the shop, check out our website, order stuff on our website. I'm always happy to ship to you if you're out of state. If you're local and you want to support us, buying singles, etc., check us out. We do try to rip product of new sets to make sure we have standard singles, including like commons and uncommons that can be hard to acquire. Anybody I'm missing?
Oh, you nailed it.
All right, well, that's our show. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Yeah, we'll see you next time.